Hey guys, this is Lola, but you can call me Lola if you like.
Hi, this is Velisa, and you could call me Vels if you want. And this is the Everybody Hates HR pod, episode 41.
Whoop, whoop. Cool.
We'll be middle-aged before we know it.
Is 41 not middle-aged?
No.
It is.
Is it?
Yeah, probably what?
Nah, not
80.
yet, not yet.
About halfway to 80.
Yeah, not yet, though.
I can tell that when you're really going to fight that middle-aged title when you get there.
41 is like, come on, I was just 30-something a couple years ago.
Fair. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so we thought we'd do something different this week.
Different.
And Lola has been trolling, can I say, Reddit.
Yes, I have. I love Reddit.
What have you been doing on Reddit?
So I just love Reddit. I feel like Reddit is a crazy corner of the internet, and I've been looking at work-related dilemmas that people post on Reddit.
As you do in your spare time.
As you do. Listen, don't do that to me. You're here with me. We're doing it together. Yes, I've been looking at work-related dilemmas, and I just love reading them. And I've thought I might respond to some of them just to give some good HR advice. But I thought, nah, rather than actually giving them the advice, I'm just going to bring it here for entertainment. So I found some, and I thought it would be good to talk about them on the podcast and answer them. Not that the people are ever going to hear it.
You never know.
They might.
But then would they have wrote to Reddit? If
I
they
feel
knew
like
we existed?
if you knew that we existed, why are you going on Reddit?
That's true. Okay, hit me.
Okay. So the first one. Okay, the title is My Annual Review Went Poorly and My Manager is Setting Up a Meeting with HR to Talk About a PIP. Can you be serious, please?
Sorry.
It's not funny. Okay. So, just to be clear, I've already updated my CV and applied for a few jobs. I'm done. I'm not saying that they're entirely wrong, but I've been thinking that maybe I'm just not compatible with the team, and this is the nail in the coffin. This will be my first time being put on a PIP and meeting with HR, so I could use some advice on how to handle it, any do's and don'ts, and what to expect.
Okay. But okay, they wait until they have a job before they leave.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Fair enough.
They might not get one, the market and all that.
I think, first of all, self-awareness is key. So the fact that the person is quite self-aware of,
I respect it.
Yeah, saying they're not entirely, inaccurate and stuff like that. That they're aware. Yeah. They're aware that there's some potential stuff there for them. Do's and don'ts.
How do you start what to expect in the PIP meeting?
So usually PIP kickoff meetings are, two ways. So first of all, it's a chance for the manager to set the expectations of the performance improvement plan, which is what PIP stands for. So they'll go through what's expected, where you have previously not met these expectations, and how they're going to measure your success of these expectations going forward. So they'll do that with you. And then it's also an opportunity for the person on the PIP to, have insight into the expectations and how they feel about it. Like, do you feel like these are fair? Do you feel like you can meet these expectations? Is there anything you need to help accommodate you meet these expectations? Is there anything your manager should be doing while you're on the PIP to help you meet these expectations? But that will vary depending on your level, right? So if you're more junior in your career, then your manager will be a bit more explicit in terms of what they need for you and the expectations. If you're a bit more senior in your career, they might be a bit more vague with the expectations.
And because some targets.
Exactly. They'll give you much more ambiguous targets to get through because they're expecting you to dissect it, figure it out, because your level is expected to work under ambiguous circumstances. So yeah, that would basically be the main parts of a PIP. And then your manager would also then explain to you, why you're on the PIP, what it means to be on the PIP. So depending on the company, it varies, but usually it's pass or fail the PIP. If you pass the PIP, you're good. If you fail the PIP, it's likely to lead to like a disciplinary process.
And consistent failing of PIPs and your performance process is likely to lead to leaving the business.
I don't like to put that out there. So,
but it's true.
You could have one PIP, which could lead to a second PIP, which could lead to a third PIP, depending on your company's patience. But you don't want to hear a second PIP.
Yeah.
So that's true. Yeah, exactly. So that's like the main foundation of what a PIP kickoff meeting consists of.
What should they do in the meeting?
So in terms of like pay attention, first of all. It sounds basic, but just pay attention, because there might be things your manager's saying that you may not have been aware of. Oh, one thing I will say though, if you are in a PIP meeting, nothing should be a surprise. You shouldn't even be surprised that you're sitting there having a PIP meeting. Like,
it doesn't sound like this person really is, to be fair.
Yeah, like your manager should be giving you consistent feedback to the point where when the PIP comes, it's like, oh, okay. It was heading here. We're here now. It should, if you feel surprised, your manager's done something wrong. It's not on you. Your manager should. And
maybe you haven't even been given the opportunity to improve with the structured feedback.
Yeah, because usually there should be like an informal coaching that happens before a PIP process, so that the PIP isn't a surprise. Whenever I help managers implement PIPs, I always ask them, what does this person know? Will they be surprised? We can do informal coaching with them, depending on time and how much they want to get you out the business or not. But have that informal coaching time so that you get used to the structure of a PIP without being on the PIP, so that when the PIP comes, you don't feel like, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world, am I losing my job kind of thing, because that's where everyone's mind goes. And
even though that might not always be the case.
Yeah, exactly. Like depending on the company and the culture, a PIP might genuinely be there to help you improve and to do better. And that's what's wanted from you. And that's all that's wanted. It's not to necessarily remove you from the business, which is where people's mind goes. In terms of listen, pay attention, ask questions. Like, just because your manager is telling you you're on a PIP, it's true, you are. There's not much you can do about it. But you can ask questions like, this is my interpretation of the expectations. Is that correct? I need more clarification on this. Can you explain this a little bit more? Just
should they say if they don't agree with certain points?
So one side of me says yes. The ER side of me says please don't. Because if you do, that's when HR have to really get involved in terms of why you feel that way. I would say if you do disagree with something, you have to have the documentation or some form of evidence to explain why you don't agree. So for example, if your manager has said to you that you constantly make errors in, the communications that you send out to a wider team, and you don't agree with that. You send communications all the time. No one's ever come to you and said there's errors in your communication.
Your manager hasn't come to you.
Your manager hasn't said any of that. But then your manager can pull up these communications and there's errors. You can't disagree with that. But then if you have a long run of communications where you can say, I haven't made any errors for the past 6 months.
Or even if there's one, okay, it's just one.
And then the one time I've made an error, you've now put me on the PIP. That's different. We need to discuss that.
Exactly.
But if there's a consistency in the expectation that is now expected of you from your manager, then there's nothing for you to disagree on.
Yes.
Yeah. I would say also be proactive. When you're on a PIP, my number one advice is to be proactive. Your manager has to be proactive, depending on whatever results it is they want to see from you. They have to have one-to-ones with you about the PIP. They have to be explicit in the feedback they give you in terms of how you're doing. They have to possibly collect feedback from other people. All these things managers will be told to do by HR and have to do in order for the PIP process to be a fair one, a balanced one, and to ultimately also protect the company. But you should also be proactive. If there's people you're working with while on the PIP and you're doing really well, ask them for feedback.
Yeah.
Be proactive. Get that feedback so that when you do sit with your manager, whether it's the middle end of the PIP, you can say, well, I've collected this feedback from XYZ people. And it's good.
Yeah, and document your progress against your target. So if they're like, you need to be doing this, this, and this, as and when you start doing those things, you'll be like, okay, yeah, I've done that. This is a good example. Document all those good examples and come prepared to, because you'll have check-in meetings during your PIP.
Yeah.
Come prepared to those meetings with the successes that you've had and how you've hit targets and how you can, like, how you have improved.
Yeah, because ultimately, even though your manager's running the PIP, they're not sitting by you 9 to 5. So they do not see everything that you're doing. So it's up to you to be proactive and bring that to their attention, because it's like a small pigeonhole of what they're going to actually base your whole PIP on. So I would say that's my main do, to be honest. And then don'ts. This is obviously, if you do, you do, but try not to feel too like demotivated. Like, now is not the time.
Give up. Yeah, don't give up.
Now is not the time, because you need to get through the PIP. But it's easier said than done, because obviously, when you're on the PIP, it's not a good thing. But this is why I say it shouldn't be a surprise, because that should mentally help people prepare. So this is for managers too, to help people mentally prepare for the fact that you're about to assess their performance in a formal way. So yeah, just try not to be deflated.
I've seen people turn their performance around.
So have I.
Like, and like, not just turn their performance around and go on to have a horrible relationship. Like, I literally go on to turn their performance around, have a positive relationship with their manager, understand how they got there, know how to, like, actually just improve.
I will say that usually with PIPs, in my experience, and the, like, however many thousands I've done, usually people who are on technical PIPs, so for their actual skills, they tend to have more of a chance of actually turning it around, in my experience. Whereas the people who are on PIPs for things that are behavioural, the chances are that if it's behavioural, these are things that you cannot change as quickly as technical things. So the chances are you're probably going to fail the PIP, and like,
unless you can really take a long, hard look at yourself and think about those kind of behavioural
exactly. You drop your defence and you accept what is being said about you. But with behavioural PIPs, a lot of the time, in my experience, people don't tend to.
It's like, so when we say behavioural PIPs, we're talking about the way you're interacting with other people in the team, the way you like communicate,
communication.
Like, I've seen wild things. Like, there was one person who there was two of them. They used to work side by side, and then one of them got promoted, and the other one absolutely categorically refused to accept that person, like, as their manager. And so they would be like, oh, can we catch up? No, sorry. Oh, when are you free? I'm not sure at the moment. Okay, I'm going to put some time in your diary. Declined. Like, just, sorry, don't have time. No, I don't think that's what I should be doing. Like, really. And that sort of stuff is like, when they say behavioural, that's very specific, but like, it's about how you engage with other people and the kind of way that you're doing things versus what you're doing.
Yeah. And also with behavioural PIPs, I feel like a lot of the time, if it's got to the stage of a PIP, that means there's usually like a lack of trust somewhere, with whether it's the manager or a team member, but something has broken down to the point where a conversation is not going to solve it.
Yeah.
Which isn't great.
Yeah.
But you can still turn it around.
Yeah. But, spread your bet. Like I said, update your CV, get it out there just in case. I think when you're on a PIP, you just have to decide, like, are you willing to do the work or not?
Yeah, like, how much do you want to stay in the company and actually do the work? And I think there's a certain level of pride that you have to kind of put aside of, are you willing to put a little bit of pride aside to just get in there, do the work, go to your manager, be like, yeah, I've done this, I'm doing better, blah, blah, blah. And you'll be fine. But when you have too much ego, I think, as well, or too much pride, and you're like, oh, what? Like, I'm not doing this. Yeah.
And also the kind of company that you work in. To be honest, the company you work in. You know who your manager is, and there are some PIPs that are done in bad faith.
100%.
So, like, a good faith PIP is like, look, we're actually going to help you to improve. We want you to improve. We want you to stick with us. Like, it's much easier for you to stay than to go and get a new one. A bad faith PIP that's what I call when you get put on a PIP when they don't want or expect or plan to help you to succeed in that PIP. So you can probably make an assessment, try and make like a fair assessment of, look, is this a good faith or a bad faith PIP? And you think it's a bad faith one, that might impact your decision of how hard you're going to try to improve the PIP versus how hard you're going to try to apply for new jobs.
And also, one thing I will say as well as a do, you just reminded me, Lola, is if you feel like there's things that are not happening during the PIP, or you do feel like something is unfair, don't wait until the end of the PIP to raise your issues. Raise them during the PIP. Don't wait until you get to the end and it's failed and now you're like,
appealing.
Don't do all of that. Just do it.
And also, if there's support that you think you need, because your manager will like, this is the support they're going to give, they will ask you about support that you might need. If there's support, even if it changes, even if you're like, oh, do you know what, it would be really helpful if someone would do X, Y, and Z with me, put your hand up and say, can I get this support?
Yeah.
Because if they want to help you there, obviously they'll help you, and if it's possible, then it could help you to improve slightly faster.
Agreed. But I like the self-awareness of this person. So.
Yeah. It's that I'm not saying they're entirely wrong.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want to do the next one?
Yeah. I think I'm going to pick my favourite one.
Which one's that one?
The work relationship one.
Okay.
So it's a little bit long.
Yeah.
So just bear with us. So it says, hey, so context, I've recently been promoted to a new role, which I've worked non-stop for 12 months to earn this role. And in the transition of the promotion, I slept with someone who was below me at the time. Since that night, that person I felt has grown a lot of feelings towards me. However, I did make it clear that it was never going to be anything serious due to the fact that I didn't have time to concentrate on a serious relationship. They did agree to this, and it was a drunken mistake on my behalf. Very nice. Now I'm that person's direct manager. They are very abusive towards me, saying things like, I don't care about them. I don't take enough time with them. I've tried to understand what the issue is with them. However, they're claiming I'm now being very HR with them. Also very nice. This isn't allowing me to understand where they're at. Also, it keeps their chain. What?
Yeah, it's terrible English. Read it again.
Oh, it keeps this chain on repeat. I think since that night, they think they deserve special treatment, and I treat all my employees with the same respect, no one with more or less. This person calls me randomly during the night, however, only allows it to ring once or twice, then hangs up. Additionally, they send me stupid messages at random hours with no context. Since their promotion, they have also had more time off work than ever before due to mental health. I'm unsure if this is due to the situation or other reasons. I'm concerned here because if my higher ups found out, they would probably not allow me to progress any further within the business or allow me to keep my position, I feel. There's no policy about what I've done. However, I feel due to what has happened, they wouldn't want to take that risk again. I'm unsure how I approach this person or what best steps to take moving forward in life and work.
Okay. So to summarize that terrible grammar, they are genderless, because when we read it, we did make some assumptions.
We did, but we actually don't know.
But genderless. Don't know if it's a man, don't know if it's a woman, same-sex relationship, different-sex relationship, don't know. So the context that they've given is they've recently been promoted. Before they were promoted, they had sex with somebody else who was more junior to them. That person has also been promoted recently. And basically how it's worked out is that the person writing the dilemma is now managing the person that they slept with. Yeah, big conflict of interest. And that person they slept with is now asking for a lot of their time and acting differently, now taking lots of time off work, calling them, acting generally not together. And the person writing that dilemma is asking what they should do about it. And I feel that there's two things that probably need to be done. The first one I would say is, the first thing I would say needs to be done, and I'm wavering on the second one now, is to escalate it to somebody else. Like tell your line manager,
Agreed.
tell HR. Because keeping it a secret, you're saying there's no policy on it, so that's fine. Hopefully there is no policy and they can't really stop you from with your colleagues, but the secrecy of it is definitely not helping now. And it kind of sounds like when they had, the sex, they weren't in a line management relationship. That's a new situation. So really, you haven't really done anything wrong. You had sex with someone that's more junior than you. I'm hoping that it's not like a manager intern sort of situation, but if it's like a general, because the person's now a manager, so I'm assuming not anyway. But if you had sex with someone more junior than you at work who you weren't managing, it's really not the end of the world. It happens all the time. People be knocking boots. But now the fact that you're managing them directly, at that point where that happened, it should have been escalated to somebody, just to remove the risk, because this person's now taking some time off work. You don't know what they're feeling, what they're saying. I definitely think that it needs to be addressed with that person as well. It seems like they have discussed it in some way, maybe because apparently now you're acting like HR, but you need to be it needs to be clear that you don't, this is now unwanted contact. Like the way you want to discuss it, the kind of relationship you want to have with that person is professional, right? So unless it's about work or my role in supporting you as a line manager, I really don't want to discuss this. Shouldn't be calling me at night. It's giving harassment, to be honest. Like, it's giving stalker, it's giving harassment, it's giving I'm calling you and dropping, and I'm sending you random messages with no context, and it's a bit scary. So regardless of the gender, so if it's a man or if it's a woman or whatever, like it's not okay. So that's what I would do. I would escalate it to someone more senior, probably line manager, then eventually to HR, and then I would tell that person that this is unwanted contact, and if that person would feel like, see if there's anything that can be done. Maybe it might be the case that that person has to change line manager, if it is the kind of thing where there is another team or another something, or maybe we just need to figure out what the options are in this situation. But you have to speak to those two, you have to do those two things.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think reading it sounds like the person feels like they're in the wrong, because they don't mention any consequences on the person that's actually calling them and saying they don't care and stuff,
and they say it's a mistake on their behalf, maybe because they're more senior, they feel they should have known better.
Which I get, but like you said, there's, you should be careful, but you can sleep with who you want.
Do you believe that people think you can harass upwards?
No, you can, but I don't think people naturally think that way.
Some people get bullied by the people that they manage,
Yeah. 100%. If kids can bully a teacher, then do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, I think it needs to be flagged. I think you should not be going through this in silence, because it would be way worse if offices, wherever it is or whatever it is, actually we don't know, people talk. So if you don't say anything, eventually it will come to light. Somebody will find out, and it's worse if they find out rather than you just coming to them with integrity, which, we need in the workplace, and saying, hold my hands up, this is what happened and this is what's happening now.
Even though the hold my hands up part, it really has to be the fact that I didn't tell you sooner. Because I don't think the hold my hands up part is about the actual encounter or the sex.
No. It's about not saying anything sooner and what's happening now because you didn't say anything sooner. Yeah,
exactly. And to be honest, there needs to be some controlling of the narrative.
Yeah, and also, obviously they said there's no policy, but a lot of companies, when stuff like this does happen, when, for example, there's companies I've worked for where when two people have had a relationship, one can't report to the other. So there might be a simple fix of, do you know what, I don't know how big the company is, so all of that stuff comes into play, but it could be a simple, she or he or whoever is going to report to somebody else, and then that's it. And you wish you did it sooner.
In another company, and it depends on the size of the company, because let's say you both work in the compliance team and there's just one compliance team and there's nobody else that can manage it, or you work in the marketing team, or that's when it gets slightly more difficult. But I definitely think that this person definitely thinks they're in the wrong.
They do.
I don't know if there's context that we're missing. Obviously it's very one-sided, but it has all the ingredients to blow it up into something quite bad.
Even though it doesn't have to.
Yeah. And there is even though we're saying everyone in this situation is genderless, based on the dilemma, the gender does make a difference, because bias makes a difference. So for instance, if you see the situation as the manager who's writing is a woman, and then the person who they're managing is a man, that is probably an easier situation for the manager, because she can say, look, in terms of the way bias operates, this person is continuing to, I don't want to engage with that person or whatever. And if the more junior employee said something, then it probably, unfortunately, sometimes may not be taken as seriously against the line manager. But if you flip that, and now the line manager is a man who has slept with a subordinate female colleague, and that person is now going off sick and is that person raises a complaint, the way people's minds work, and it shouldn't, and it's wrong.
They'll see it differently.
It could be seen differently. So I definitely think that the person writing this needs to really take control of the narrative.
I agree.
Versus all of this, she's he or she or whatever. Someone is calling you in the middle of the night and you're just sitting there, you're writing on Reddit.
That could be me. I'd have to say something.
Like, it's actually crazy that someone is literally calling you in the middle of the night, hanging up the phone and texting you random messages.
Yeah, we spoke about this. The people who should complain often don't complain.
And you're on Reddit, asking people for advice.
I think it's because they believe they're in the wrong. If they thought they weren't, they wouldn't be on Reddit.
Yeah, it's giving, I made a mistake. How can I get out of it without getting in trouble?
Yeah, but people sleep with each other all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It should take time, but...
Take time.
You know.
I saw another one on there, which we're not going to discuss yet, but I did see another dilemma on Reddit when it was like this girl, she was like 21. She just started, it was the first job. She was with, she fancied this guy. He was 24 and she thinks they both liked each other. And the question was like twofold. It was like, please I want to be professional. Please can you give me any advice on how to maintain a professional relationship? Or if you think I should pursue it, how do I get the man? And I was like, what side of the fence are you on? Like,
she wants her man, honey.
Yeah, it's like, should I prioritize my career or should I just get,
do both.
The cookie?
Do both. There was another one, should be like a kind of quick one. It was about CIPD. Mm-hmm. So is a level 7 CIPD certification worth it? So I'm currently doing my master's in HR management and organizational analysis in the UK. My course offers us an optional additional module for students who would get a CIPD level 7 certification for about £1,500. I'm a bit conflicted on signing up for it as it's quite a bit of money and I'm not sure if it's of value yet. I'd like to know your experience with getting a CIPD certification and if it was worth it for you.
Yeah. So, firstly, if you're going to do a master's in HR or something...
Sorry, Lola. I think it will be good for people to know what we have because we're very different in terms of our qualifications.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I only have CIPD level 5.
Not leading with the only, but okay.
I do only have, compared to what Lola has, because she has like finance under her belt too. But I only have, the reason I say that is because we're both doing quite well in our careers, but our educational qualification in terms of HR is very different. So I only have level 5 CIPD. I'm principal employee relations partner for MIA APG. For a tech company. Period. So I'm just trying to tell you, you can do it, honey. You can do it.
But that qualification didn't. Yeah, but for CIPD, there's 3 levels basically, right? There's like level. I hate why is it not just 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah,
but I think it relates to something external. But there's level 3, there's level 5, and there's level 7. I think they say level 3 is like what equivalent to like A levels or something.
Yeah.
Level 5 is more degree level, and then level 7 is more master. Sorry, 5 is undergraduate degree. Level 7 is more equivalent to a master's degree.
Yeah.
So that's what they say. And a lot of...
What do you have?
I have CIPD level 5, which I studied, and then I did a master's, which came with level 7 accreditation, which is kind of what this person is talking about. So I would say if you're going to do a master's in HR in the UK, at the outset, pick a degree which is CIPD accredited, because this person obviously the degree is not CIPD accredited as standard. So they're having to pay additional money. And that means that they're basically going to pay for their masters, and to get it accredited, they're having to pay £1,500, which I've heard of, but ideally try and avoid that. And so they are asking if it is worth it to pay the £1,500 to get the level 7 accreditation. I mean, you are where you are now, right? I'm kind of conflicted on this one, because a master's in HR is just as good, if not better, than CIPD level 7 in my view, right? And people will assume that if you have a master's,
you've got the
CIPD level 7, even though you don't necessarily have it's not accredited, but it is the equivalent like thing. In anything, HRM, organizational, whatever, they would just assume. Obviously, you may as well, like, if you really want to have the CIPD level 7 thing, you may as well just do it now, because to do level 7 separately, which you would have to do otherwise,
it's a lot of work,
and it's a lot of work, and it's what's like £8,000. So £8,000 versus £1,500 is really not that much. So yeah, I would pay £1,500 personally, just to say that you've got it, it's out of the way, you do one extra module, let it be done. But you can survive without it easily.
Yeah,
especially if you have the masters. It's the same thing to most employers.
Yeah, I think if she was asking, also I was saying she could be anyone, but I think if they're asking, is CIPD worth it? My answer would be different to, is it worth it to do the degree with and then pay separately? I think just paying the additional 1,500 and getting it done, so that there's no questions asked. Because a lot of companies, when they put out job descriptions in there, you know, what they want qualification wise, they always put CIPD qualified. Some will be more specific and put level 7, you know, CIPD. So yeah, just it's an investment.
I actually see them as interchangeable, and I think a lot of employers do. So if they say like, oh, CIPD level 7, I see you have a master's in HR, probably because I assume it was accredited, and maybe I shouldn't be assuming that, but I would take either or. The thing is, £1,500 is obviously a lot of money. So if there's a way to pause it and do it when you can, if it is like the financial aspect, that might be worth it. But in the interim, if you couldn't, for instance, afford it right now, or if it wasn't convenient for you to pay it right now, I would actually just crack on. Like I would do it eventually, like I would want to, but if the financial element was like going to be burdensome to me, I would just crack on with my thing and do it later if I could. Because like no one is going to say, oh, your master's not CIPD accredited.
It's still a master's.
If someone told me that their master's wasn't CIPD accredited, I would be like, but I wouldn't assume it wasn't.
Yeah, that's true. And in general, is CIPD worth it? Do you feel, I mean, you had a career change, so your answer might be vary, but do you feel like you needed to do CIPD level 5 and then your masters to be where you are? Yeah,
I feel like I did mine because exactly what you said. I feel like because I had a career change, I just felt like, oh, everybody else in HR is gonna look better than me, or is actually going to know more than me, because by the time I went in like HR manager level, even though it was a small company, so people probably had like 4 to 5 years experience in HR from the admin level. So I'm like, I will actually have missed out on all this stuff. What if they know more than me? Let me go and do CIPD to try and close that gap. Whether or not it closed that gap, the jury's still out. But I think the value of CIPD, and I've said it a couple of times before, is having the CIPD versus what you learn in the CIPD. Unfortunately, for everyone, there'll be like one or two modules which are genuinely helpful for your job, and then there'll be a bunch of modules which you just have to do because you have to do them, and they won't actually add that much value to you, I think. But the biggest benefit is to say that you have it, because the way our industry is set up, people just love it. They just love it. CIPD has done a fantastic job of, you know, infiltrating HR in such a way where without it, you just seem less attractive. They've put themselves at the center, and just to make sure it doesn't hold you back, because some roles, like I have clients that recruit and they're like, oh, we really want someone CIPD qualified, and it's always non-HR people that say that to me, because they really think, I don't know what they think we learn in CIPD. Not that it's not valuable, but they're like, oh, we really want someone who knows that, you know, so someone CIPD qualified. And I'm like, there's someone who has more experience than the CIPD qualified person who'll be just as good at doing this. But I think it is worth it to have it, to say that you have it. Level 5, not level 7. Level 7 is good in places where, like in the public sector, it's really good because they love those kind of qualifications. Like there's certain roles that they'll have on the job description and it will say you need to be qualified to master's level or something like that. But I think level 5 is good for most people. Even when you get to like director of HR level, that's the only time you really need level 7. But people are just doing it willy-nilly now, including myself, right? So I would say level 5 is where I would pitch myself to be like, yeah, it's useful for getting a HR job. Anything over and above that, I think it's a nice to have for most roles in HR.
Yeah, I agree.
What about level 3? What do you think about level 3?
I think level 3 is good when you are very new to HR and maybe don't necessarily have a HR role yet, and you just need to get the foundations down of what it means to be in HR. I feel like if you are already in a HR role, level 5 is the best place to start. Level 3 is literally the bones of HR. So I'm not against it, but I do think it's more for people who just have zero HR experience, and probably like even not zero work experience, but very minimal work experience as well. Like if you have some work experience, I feel like level 5 can kind of make sense to you.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is that there's a benefit to being in HR when you do CIPD, no matter what level, because a lot of the material, I'll speak to like level 5 because I don't know what level 7 looks like, but there's a lot of stuff you can pull from work that will help you do the work. So it does help to be in HR at the same time.
Same with level 7. Even the way they do assignments, case studies, and certain things, it helps if you're working in HR at the time.
Yeah, and I think also in terms of like, is it worth it? I think CIPD is worth having on paper, like literally on paper, like on your CV.
Yeah,
it's literally
like
worth
on
having.
the paper.
The paper. But in terms of like, is there things that you will learn in CIPD that if you don't know, you won't be successful in HR? Absolutely not.
I don't even know if there's things that you learn in CIPD that you wouldn't learn otherwise. The stuff that I think is most benefit is like employment law. Like this is how you run. Like the stuff that is clinical, that is like you have to do it this way. You do touch on in CIPD, but everything else, I really think you can learn it outside.
I agree.
You might not learn it outside because it has nothing to do with your job.
Yeah, like when I think of when I have a difficult situation at work and stuff, my mind does not go to CIPD.
What did I learn in my CIPD?
My mind goes to when have I had a similar situation like this, and can I apply it? It doesn't go to in CIPD.
But it does, like, you know, like how you run like. So if you do an employee relations module and employment law module, they're the two best modules I think that you can do in CIPD, because they actually teach you like stuff. So for instance, you might not know like what someone's rights are, like stuff like learning about protected characteristics and the Equality Act and all of this stuff that you need to know, even health and safety, like certain things that you actually need to know. Like that's it, like that's right or wrong. But everything else, like even like resourcing, you're not going to learn how to do recruitment from CIPD, like stuff like that. And I like, controversial opinion, I literally would never do CIPD level 3. It's not true. The only way I would do CIPD level 3 is if I hadn't, like, it's cheaper. So if I really didn't have the funds to do it and I just needed to get something CIPD level 3 down. What I hate about the structure of level 3, which I've never seen in any other qualification, is that you don't get credit for the level before in each level. So if you do CIPD level 3 and then you decide to go on to doing level 5, level 5 is not any shorter because you've done level 3. It's not any less work. It's not like you do 4 modules and then you get level 3 and then you do another 4 to get level 5. You'll have to do 8 modules at level 5, even if you've done level 3. And level 7 is the same. You do CIPD level 5 or you have nothing, you still come in and do the exact same thing at level 7. So that's why I wouldn't do it if like, I hate the fact that I did level 5 and then I went to go and do my masters, because now, even though I said I have CIPD level 5, I also have level 7. It's not an additional. I can't explain it. It's just, it doesn't give you any credit. You do it again. You do it twice. Yeah. You have to end up doing the same kind of thing twice. So I would just, if you can hold off and just do the higher level later, that's what I would do.
Me personally, if I get to a point where I want to progress, like in terms of being a director or something, and CIPD is preventing me, then I'll do it. But if it doesn't, I'm never doing it.
That's what I was going to ask you. Would you do that? Like, I wouldn't advise it,
because it hasn't hindered me so far. So, like, and if I'm honest, I can't remember the last job that
asked you or cared with employee relations, or just any job when you get to such a senior level. If you can do the job, you can do the job.
Yeah, it has to be on experience.
The pool of people that can do the job and do it well, and that you want, and that want you, and that are available in the right salary range, is not a massive pool to now be saying, oh yeah, we got Velisa, but she doesn't have CIPD level 7, so we can't move forward.
I remember when I was at Meta and they were looking for an employee relations partner, like an addition to the team. And the recruiter, I spoke to her because I was on the interview panel, and she was struggling like to find. She said there was literally loads of people with CIPD qualifications because people do study it, right? But she said the pool in London specifically actually was so small for people who actually had employee relations experience that she felt could do the role. So I just think
Just get rid of that. Get rid of that requirement if it's hindering you.
Yeah, just go with experience. Like, you can't always. There's so many different circumstances as to why somebody may not have got their CIPD qualification or finished it or whatever. Like, even me personally, in the middle of my CIPD, I had a family death, and one of the like tests or classes or whatever was on the day of the funeral, and I thought I had to pick between.
Yeah.
I didn't have to.
Oh, okay.
I spoke to the tutor and she was like, of course, like, just do what you need to do. But there's just loads of circumstances as to, you know, why someone might not have it. And I think if people are too rigid, employers are too rigid with that, they'll miss out on some really good people.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps the person if they ever
I think that helps more than Reddit, to be honest.
These people should be coming to us.
They should.
I've got another one here.
Life Dilemma pod coming soon. Cooking.
We should get on. I should answer some of these on Reddit, but I will never do it. Okay, I'll just do this one about a team leaving. Okay, 6 months in, whole HR team is gone. Okay. Hi everyone, I've been in my entry level HR role for 6 months. This is another one that has terrible
entry
grammar.
level.
Yeah.
Okay.
My entry level HR role for 6 months. HR at my job is a team of 3. 3 months in, the HR specialist who was training me resigned. I was then given the majority of her role to take over. It was a very stressful time as I was still new and felt very lost and overwhelmed. We hired someone to take her spot very quickly and I was able to hand over the majority of her role, but I still have much more responsibility and I'm pretty much training the new person who makes much more than me and has a higher title. I thought about asking for a pay rise, but have not. Well, that's not it. The HR manager is now quitting. I can only imagine how much more responsibility and stress this will bring on. I am not looking forward to it. Even though there is a plan to find someone new, I know I will have to learn and take over for the time being and eventually train a new manager while still being in an entry-level role. My question is, should I ask for a pay rise and title bump before the HR manager leaves?
So I have like 2 things in my head.
Okay.
One's a bit mean and one's a bit like more empathetic to that.
Okay.
My thing is, there's a lot of delusional people out there. I know I keep saying it, but there is. Like, if a HR manager starts and you have to show them where certain folders are on the drive and, you know, you need to show them how
you're not training them up.
Literally, you're not training them up. Like, you still don't have to, you still can't do their job. Like, just because you're showing them the ropes in that sense.
Yeah, that's
do you know
true,
what I mean? It doesn't, because some people do get carried away. They're like,
and I'm having to train this person.
I'm having to show them this and they didn't even know where this was. Yeah,
but can you do a grievance by yourself?
Literally. Can you? Can you do an investigation end to end? Like, can you do it?
Can you do that? Can you do that?
You know what to do in a crisis. Like, do you know what I'm saying? So, hopefully that person is not delusional. But if you are, please like sit down and ask yourself, what am I really?
What am I teaching them?
Yeah, what are you actually teaching them versus an induction of things that they need to know?
Expertise they
exactly
bringing,
to be able to apply things they already know to do the job.
Solid challenge. Solid, yeah.
Literally. But on the other hand, because do you know why I say that as well? Because this person is entry level. So why you
I can see you trying to formulate the words in a way which is going to be nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to articulate it in a nice way. But this person is entry level and then now say they're stressed because they're going to be training this HR.
But I think in their mind they believe that they are training them, and they might be training them on systems.
And this is what I'm saying. You go and sit down.
Yeah.
Go and ask yourself, like, can you do a grievance on your own? What do you do when an employee needs, you know, is in a crisis? Like, what do you do? Like, do you know how to manage these things? and then ask yourself if you are training the manager.
But they
or
still
inducting
may
the
have
manager.
some additional responsibility which they didn't sign up for in helping that new person to onboard.
And again, with being delusional, when a new person starts on your team,
You have to help them.
You have to help them. It doesn't matter how senior they are, how junior they are new to the company. There's certain things that they may not have come across before. And there's a certain way that things are done in this company that they may not have been done in their old company. So you have to, come on, you have to help them. Like, they ask you a question, you help them. Me, I'm relatively senior in my role. I've been there how many months? I'm constantly asking questions. It doesn't mean I don't know how to do my job.
I don't know how things work here.
Exactly. I just need to double check that I know how I would do it, but is that how my company does it?
Yeah.
That's not, teaching. That's just welcoming someone to help them understand, give them a few tools. I think, but on the flip side, if they are having additional responsibilities, are they temporary? Are they long term? Like what?
I was thinking if you have some additional responsibilities, I don't know if it's necessarily training the person how to do the job, but it may be training them how to use certain systems, helping them with onboarding, more than you would.
Because they themselves, how long have they been there?
6 months.
So
yeah.
Do you know what? Lola, you answer this one.
So I think if they're now doing additional things which they weren't expected to do at the beginning, and I don't think, in my view, I don't think helping someone to join, because people come and go. Like, someone helped you to join. Do you know what I mean? Like, the HR specialist who was helping you, it might not have been their role. It might have been the HR manager's role, but we all would just pitch in. I do think if you now have additional responsibilities for a period of time because someone's leaving and you may have to pick up some of their responsibilities, you can ask for an acting up allowance. I think that's reasonable to say, oh, can I get a small allowance to compensate me for the fact that I am doing slightly senior work, to the extent that you are doing slightly more senior work. Or I'm now acting outside of what is my job, whatever. So I think you can ask for an acting up allowance, but before you ask for that acting up allowance, you should think about whether you deserve it or not based on what you're doing. And also, she did say she's under a lot of stress and pressure, so it does seem like maybe it's more about the workload. So I'd say rather than asking for a pay rise, because a pay rise, if you're stressed and you're overworked, a pay rise is not going to help you. So I would say, actually, is there something around speaking to the HR specialist, a new one, or is there someone else that you can speak to about how you divvy out the workload in the meantime? Will there be someone that can come in from an agency to pick up? Like, how can you need to be thinking about how to manage the workload you have better versus more money, because the more money in this situation, I hate when people say that I'm really stressed and overworked and I need more money. I get that being underpaid is not helpful, but it doesn't resolve the main situation. Because it's like, if I ask you, are you willing to be overworked for more money? Most people will say no, because it's overworking. It's an unmanageable level of work.
It's
that's
not
creating
sustainable.
Stress. There's no amount of money in the world that you can pay me to be stressed. That's not true, actually. There's a number.
I, without sounding too old school as the resident Gen Z of the podcast, someone who's been there 6 months, I would just use it as an opportunity to just explore. Like, okay, if you're overworked, fine, deal with that. You shouldn't be overworked. But if you are being exposed to things that you usually wouldn't be exposed to at your role, and you've been there for 6 months, take advantage of that and actually immerse yourself in understanding things that maybe you wouldn't have got you
wouldn't have had exposure to.
If you just came in and everything
the way I will finesse that on my CV,
and then by the time the next 6 months comes, if somebody else leaves, you can be the HR specialist, or you can be looking for another role. You're having more exposure to things that you wouldn't have otherwise. No, I'm with that. But so should their person ask for a pay rise? No.
Okay, but potentially an acting up allowance?
Yes, and they should also take advantage of something called annual leave.
You're such a bitch.
But they should take advantage of it, take some time off to breathe and, really think about, what's going on.
Do you know what? I laugh, but I really do have, I hope this person sorted themselves out and all that stuff. But I do really find it frustrating when other people moan about helping their colleagues.
Literally, that's what what I'm saying.
I think it's helping your colleagues, and I'm literally mean like helping them. Like when you join somewhere new, you want people to want to help you.
Yeah, not doing their job, but just helping out.
Yeah, and like I feel like when you're now upset that you're helping other people, like that's a bit much. I get it if like the workload is now unmanageable, but she did say that they found someone really quickly for the last role. She literally said they found someone very quickly and she was able to hand over the majority, but now she still has more responsibility. But I'm like, maybe you have more responsibility because it's been 6 months now. You've proven that you can do that, and this is the natural progression of your role.
Yeah, that's true as well.
And I don't think you don't get paid for every single new responsibility that you take on.
You don't.
Your role will evolve until it gets to a point where it's no longer the evolution is so much that it's no longer the same role, and that's when it becomes time for a discussion about your role and a promotion and stuff like that. But what you do on day one is not going to be the same as what you do on day 365, and if it is, then are you even really being developed enough?
Agreed.
I'm so glad that this is not someone who specifically wrote to us with that.
That is why I've been so candid, because this person hasn't wrote into the pod, so I can say what I want.
How long have we got?
I think we're at time. Yeah, 56.
I was gonna do that. Okay, no, we'll save it for another time. But yeah, that was fun.
It was. Sorry, I just got that picture.
Oh, cute. Yeah, that was fun.
It was fun.
I feel like one of the question on this episode would be like, do you enjoy this? Like, was it good to go through some of the stuff on Reddit? Dilemmas. I love Reddit. I think it's a great place. But yeah, we'll ask if people enjoyed going through like just dilemmas and just other people's things. I found some really juicy ones. So if you do like it, the next time we come back and we do something like this, we can make them really juicy, salacious,
we'll
crazy.
be in other people's business.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love drama that doesn't involve me.
Love the drama.
It's the best kind. Thank you very much. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Tell us what you thought.
Yeah.
I hope, if you're going through something similar as well. I hope we help.
Yeah, and if you actually have a dilemma, write it to us. We'll be very nice about it.
Yes. We'll be nicer because you actually listened.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a wrap, guys.
Bye.